My name is Lila Vance. I am 32 years old, and this is my true story. This really happened to me, and it completely changed my life. I once trusted someone deeply, but what they did to me was so shocking, so terrifying that I'm still haunted by it. Today, I want you to know how betrayal can come from the people you love the most. What started as something small soon turned into a nightmare. I never imagined. If you really want to know how it all happened, then stay with me till the very end. Because my story will leave you speechless. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and remember this story is written and edited by Dark Life. Side Diaries. It all started 2 years ago when I joined an online community for book lovers, a safe little corner of the internet where people shared stories, poetry, and late-night thoughts. That's where I met her. Name was Naomi, or at least that's what she told me. She had this charm about her. The way she wrote, so emotional, so deep that I felt an instant connection. She reached out to me after I commented on one of her posts, and soon we were chatting every single night. She lived in another state, worked as a nurse, and claimed she was lonely and misunderstood. I'd been going through a rough patch at the time. My long-term relationship had ended, my family was distant, and I was struggling with anxiety, so Naomi became my safe place. She listened, comforted, and encouraged me in ways no one else did. It felt too good to be true, and maybe that should have been my first warning. Weeks turned into months, and Naomi became a part of my daily life. We shared secrets, fears, even dreams about the future. She started calling me her soul twin, saying we were destined to meet. I laughed it off, thinking it was just internet exaggeration, but inside I secretly liked the idea of someone caring that much. Then came the strange things. Naomi always seemed to know more than I told her. If I posted something on my private social media, she'd mention it within minutes. If I had a bad day at work, she'd send me a message saying she felt something was wrong. At first, I brushed it off as intuition, but then one night she described the outfit I had worn earlier that day. Even though I hadn't posted a single picture, I confronted her, half joking, asking if she had hidden cameras in my house, but she only replied with a smiley face and the words, "Maybe I just know you better than you know yourself." I tried to ignore the chill that ran down my spine, but things got darker. Packages started arriving at my apartment with no return address, flowers, jewelry, even a dress that was exactly my size. I never told Naomi my address, but when I asked her if she sent them, she always dodged the question. One night, during one of our calls, she whispered, "I like how your curtains look in the moonlight." My blood ran cold. She wasn't supposed to know what my curtains looked like. I stopped answering her calls after that, but she didn't stop. Instead, she created fake profiles to message me, commenting things only she would know. My phone buzzed nonstop with her words, "Don't ignore me, I'm closer than you think." One evening, after coming home late from work, I noticed my front door was slightly ajar. My heart pounded as I stepped inside, the faint smell of perfume filling the air. Perfume I had never bought. On my bed was a folded note in neat handwriting. "Finally, I'm here," and that was only the beginning of the nightmare. When I saw that note on my bed, my entire body froze as if every nerve had been struck by lightning. The handwriting was elegant, sharp, almost too perfect, and it sent a shiver down my spine because I had seen it before on the little cards that came with the mysterious gifts. The ones I had convinced myself were just coincidences, or maybe from a secret admirer, but this was no longer an anonymous gesture. This was someone who had crossed a line, someone who had stepped into the sanctuary of my home. My apartment smelled faintly of lily, the same flowers Naomi once told me were her favorite, and I couldn't help but wonder if she had been here, inside my bedroom, watching me sleep, touching my belongings, leaving her invisible fingerprints everywhere. I wanted to scream, to call the police, to run, but I couldn't even move. Fear anchored me to the spot, and my mind replayed all those conversations where she joked about knowing me too well, where she hinted at being closer than I imagined. The note was proof that she wasn't just a voice behind a screen. She was here, flesh and blood, breathing the same air. My shaking hands grabbed my phone, but when I tried to dial 911, the screen lit up with a message notification instead. "Finally, you see, you don't need to call anyone. I'll take care of you now." The timestamp said it was sent just 2 minutes ago. That meant she was near, maybe even still in the building. My heart hammered violently, and I forced myself to scan the room, searching for shadows, for any sign of movement, but the silence was deafening. Gathering every ounce of courage I had left, I ran out the door, not even caring that I left it wide open, and bolted down the stairwell until I reached the street. The night was cold, my breath sharp in my throat, and the city lights blurred through my tears. I spent that night at a cheap motel, too terrified to go back home, too ashamed to call the police and admit I had let some stranger worm her way into my life so deeply I barely slept, jumping at every sound, convinced Naomi was lurking outside the door waiting for the perfect moment to snatch me away by morning exhaustion finally caught up with me, and in my haze I made the mistake of checking my email. There was a subject line that made my stomach drop. Did you sleep well? The body of the email contained a picture of me curled up on the motel bed, fast asleep, my hair spread across the pillow, the blanket pulled up to my chest. My scream was muffled into the pillow as I dropped the phone, shaking uncontrollably. How did she know where I was? How did she get inside? Every fiber of me wanted to run, to vanish, but where could I possibly go if she could track me so easily? I quit my job that week, unable to concentrate too paranoid to sit at my desk wondering if she was outside the window. I blocked her numbers, deleted my accounts, and even bought a new phone. But no matter what I did, Naomi, or whatever her real name was, always found me. Sometimes it was a letter slipped under my door, sometimes a photo of me at the grocery store, sometimes just a simple text that said, "I love watching you." I began to question my sanity. Whether I was imagining all of it, but the evidence was always there, tangible, undeniable. My friends noticed my paranoia, the way I jumped when someone touched me, or how I constantly checked over my shoulder, but I couldn't tell them the truth. Who would believe me? An online friend turned into a stalker who somehow knew everything about me, who could get inside my locked apartment, who could follow me without ever being seen. It sounded insane. Then one night I woke to the sound of humming. At first I thought it was coming from the hallway, maybe a neighbor, but as my eyes adjusted to the dark, I realized the sound was coming from inside my bedroom. The tune was soft, almost like a lullaby, and it wrapped around me like icy fingers. My entire body went rigid as I slowly turned my head toward the corner of the room, and there she was, a silhouette sitting calmly in the chair near my desk. Her posture relaxed as though she belonged there. My breath caught in my throat, and though the room was dim, I could see the glint of her eyes fixed on me, unblinking, unwavering. "Don't be scared," she whispered, her voice both familiar and foreign, the same voice I had listened to through late-night calls, now terrifyingly real in my own bedroom. "I told you we'd be together." I wanted to scream, but she moved so fast, crossing the room in seconds, her hand clanged over my mouth. She cooed, her face inches from mine. In the faint light, I could finally see her features, a young woman, strikingly beautiful in a haunting way, with pale skin and dark hair that framed her sharp jawline. Her eyes were wide, unblinking, filled with something that looked like love but felt like madness. "I've been so patient." "Lila," she murmured, "you don't know how long I've waited for this." My tears burned as I tried to push her away, but she was stronger than she looked, her grip like iron. "Please." I tried to mumble against her hand, but she only shook, her head pressing her forehead against mine. "Don't fight me, you're mine now." I don't know where the strength came from, maybe pure terror, but I twisted violently, biting down hard on her palm. She screamed, jerking her hand away, and I shoved her off me, bolting for the door. My heart thundered as I stumbled into the hallway, racing barefoot down the stairs, her voice echoing after me. "You can't run from me, Lila. You belong to me." I didn't stop until I was outside, gasping in the cold night air, begging my legs not to give out. I ran until I reached a police station, bursting inside like a madwoman, sobbing and shaking as I told them everything. The officers listened, their expressions a mix of concern and skepticism, but when they escorted me back to my apartment, she was gone. No trace of forced entry, no sign of anyone having been there except for the note still on my bed. "I'll come back for you." The police filed a report, but without solid evidence there was nothing they could do. They suggested I move, change my locks, even get a restraining order, but how could I restrain someone who always seemed 2 steps ahead of me? I did move twice, in fact, but each time she found me. Letters, gifts, pictures, whispers in the dark. She was everywhere. My life became a prison, each day a cycle of fear and dread. Friends drifted away, tired of my paranoia, and my family told me to get therapy, thinking I was making it all up, but I wasn't. Naomi was real, and she wasn't going to stop one evening. As I sat alone in yet another temporary apartment, my phone buzzed with a new message. This time it wasn't a threat, it was a video. My trembling fingers pressed play, and the screen filled with footage of me sleeping. The camera panned, slowly lingering on my face, then shifted to reveal a figure standing in the corner. Her Naomi, watching me, smiling at the camera. My blood ran cold as her voice filled the room. "You'll never escape me, Lila. We're forever." And that's when I realized this wasn't just obsession anymore. This was something darker, something twisted beyond comprehension. Naomi didn't just want to be in my life, she wanted to consume it, to erase every boundary between us until I ceased to exist as myself. And no matter what I did, she was always closer than I thought. After watching that video, something inside me snapped, not in the way Naomi had hoped, not in surrender, but in rage. For months I had been her prey, cowering in the shadows of my own fear, letting her dictate my every move, stripping away my freedom, piece by piece, until I was nothing more than a hollow shell of who I used to be. But as her smiling face lingered on my phone screen, mocking me, taunting me with proof of her control, I realized that if I didn't fight back, I would be erased entirely. Naomi didn't just want to watch me. She wanted to be me, to own me, in a way that destroyed every trace of my independence, and that was something I could never allow. The fear in my chest hardened into something else, resolve burning and unyielding. I deleted the video, but burned every detail into my memory, determined that if this was going to be my life, I would flip the game on her. No more running, no more hiding. If she wanted me so badly, I would lure her out, expose her, and make her regret the day she ever chose me as her obsession. But the tricky part was how she was careful, meticulous, always ahead of me, and if I made one wrong move, she could kill me before anyone even believed she existed. I began documenting everything, every message, every letter, every gift. I kept them in a hidden folder, taking photos, recording dates, building a timeline of her obsession. At night, I forced myself to stay awake, armed with a kitchen knife, waiting for her to slip inside again. Days bled into nights, and paranoia consumed me, but with it came clarity. I realized Naomi was feeding on my isolation, my weakness, my silence. She thrived on me keeping her a secret. So for the first time, I told someone everything. My coworker, Jenna, who had always noticed how drained and paranoid I looked. I sat in her car outside my apartment, shaking, spilling out the entire story from the first chatroom conversation to the latest video. Jenna's face went pale, but instead of laughing it off like everyone else, she grabbed my hand and said, "Lila, you're not crazy. This is real, and if she wants to play games, we'll play too." For the first time in months, I felt a spark of hope, a tiny light flickering inside the darkness. Together, Jenna and I set a trap. We installed hidden cameras around my apartment, inside, outside, even down the hall, places Naomi couldn't easily see. Jenna stayed over some nights, pretending to sleep while I kept watch. At first, nothing happened. Days passed in silence, and I began to wonder if Naomi had somehow sensed what I was doing. But then one night, while Jenna dozed on the couch, I heard the faint sound of the lock clicking. My entire body froze, the familiar terror clawing at me, but I forced myself to stay calm. I clutched my phone, ready to alert Jenna when the door creaked open. There she was, Naomi, slipping inside with the elegance of a shadow, her face partially hidden beneath her dark hair, a small smile tugging at her lips as she carried something in her hands. A single white lily. She moved through my apartment like she owned it, placing the flower gently on the coffee table, humming softly to herself. I wanted to scream, to lunge at her, but I held still, letting the cameras do their work. My heart pounded as she crept toward my bedroom, pausing to glance at Jenna on the couch. For a split second, her eyes narrowed, her smile fading, but then she whispered, "Soon," and vanished back into the night as quickly as she had come. When we replayed the footage, Jenna's face turned ghost white. My God, Lila, she's real. We took the evidence straight to the police, convinced this would finally be enough, but the officers dismissed it as staged or not incriminating enough, claiming there was no proof she meant harm. "Maybe it's a friend playing a prank," one of them said casually, as if my life wasn't dangling on the edge of a knife. My fury boiled hotter than ever. If the system wouldn't help me, then I would help myself. Naomi thought she was the hunter, but now I had her face, her movements, her presence. She wasn't just a shadow anymore. She was flesh and blood, and flesh and blood could bleed. The obsession escalated quickly after that. Naomi must have sensed my defiance, because her messages grew darker, more possessive. "Don't bring others into this, they'll ruin everything. You don't want Jenna to get hurt, do you?" she wrote one night. Another time, I found a photo taped to my door. Jenna walking alone to her car, taken from behind, her face slightly turned. My stomach lurched. Naomi wasn't just watching me anymore. She was watching anyone who dared to help me. That's when the true horror set in. She didn't need to hurt me to destroy me. She could pick off the people I cared about one by one until I had no one left. The rage inside me solidified into something dangerous. I couldn't just wait for her to strike. I had to strike first, so I started digging every tiny detail. Naomi had ever given me stories about her childhood, the names of pets, her favorite coffee shop. I began cross-referencing them, combing through records, searching forums, tracing IP addresses. Jenna helped me, using her tech-savvy skills, to peel back layers of the digital mask Naomi had hidden behind for so long. It took weeks, but finally we found something: an address, A small rundown house on the outskirts of the city registered to a woman named Naomi Gray. My blood turned to ice as I stared at the screen. This was her, the real her, my tormentor. Had a home, a place where she believed she was safe that night. I couldn't sleep the thought of her lying comfortably in her bed while I lived in constant terror, making me physically sick. That's when the idea took root. She wanted to invade my world. Maybe it was time I invaded hers. Jenna begged me not to say it was too dangerous, but I was beyond reason. I needed to see her world, needed to face the monster that had dismantled my life piece by piece. So one cold rainy evening I drove out to the address, my hands trembling on the wheel, my eyes darting to every shadow. The house was exactly what I expected, dark, silent, almost abandoned looking, with overgrown weeds choking the yard and boarded up windows that gave it the look of a tomb. But as I sat there in my car, the front door creaked open, and there she was, Naomi, wearing a simple dress, her pale skin glowing faintly in the dim light, her eyes scanning the street like she somehow knew I was there. My breath caught, and for a terrifying second, her gaze locked directly on my car. She smiled, not a friendly smile, a knowing smile. Slowly she raised her hand, waved once, and then disappeared back inside. My heart pounded so hard I thought I would pass out. She always knew. I drove home in a panic, convinced she was behind me, that she'd appear in my rearview mirror at any second. That night, I barely closed my eyes, jumping at every creak of the floorboards. When morning came, I found another note slipped under my door. It's sweet that you tried to visit me. Next time, just knock. I'll be waiting. My blood ran cold. She had seen me. She wanted me to come closer. She was daring me, and in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Naomi didn't just enjoy hunting me. She wanted me to become like her. She was pulling me into her darkness, pushing me toward obsession until the line between us blurred completely. The next days were a blur. Fear, exhaustion, and rage. Naomi's presence pressed in on me from all sides. Text, notes, photographs. I could feel her even when she wasn't there, like she had seeped into my walls, my blood, my mind. But beneath the fear, there was something else growing inside me, something dangerous. I no longer wanted just to survive. I wanted revenge, and I knew the only way to end this was to confront her on her terms, to step willingly into her world and tear it down from the inside. She thought I was weak, but she underestimated me. She had stolen my life, my peace, my sanity. Now it was my turn to steal hers. I knew it had to end. Living like this, checking every corner, locking every door twice, feeling her shadow in every breath I took, was no life at all. Naomi had stolen my sleep, my freedom, my trust, my very identity, until all that was left was this hollowed out husk of the woman I used to be. But there was one thing she hadn't taken yet: my will to fight. I thought about that night I had driven to her house, how she had waved at me like a predator teasing its prey, and I realized that Naomi wanted me to come to her, not because she thought she could kill me, but because she wanted me to join her game. She wanted me to become as obsessed with her as she was with me. And in a twisted way, she had succeeded. Every thought I had, every plan I made circled back to her. If I wanted to survive, I couldn't run from that obsession anymore. I had to embrace it. And then I had to turn it against her. The next week, I laid my plan. I told Jenna everything, and though she tried to convince me it was madness, I told her it was the only way. You're walking straight into her trap, Jenna whispered, her voice cracking with fear. What if she kills you, Lila? I looked her in the eye and said, then at least it ends. But if I do nothing, she wins forever? Reluctantly, Jenna agreed to help, though. I could see the dread in her face. Together, we mapped out Naomi's house, studied the footage we had gathered, and prepared hidden equipment: a small recorder, a camera strapped beneath my jacket, and a tracker Jenna could follow from her car. I wasn't going in to kill Naomi, not at first. I was going in to expose her, to drag her into the light she so desperately hid from. But deep down, I knew this confrontation would not end cleanly. One of us would not walk away the same. The night I chose was stormy, with thunder shaking the sky and rain pouring down in sheets, as if the world itself was trying to wash away the evil festering between Naomi and me. I drove to her street with trembling hands, every instinct in my body screaming at me to turn back, but I forced the wheel straight. Jenna followed a block behind, her headlights faint in the distance, her phone connected to my tracker. When I pulled up in front of Naomi's house, the sight of it made my stomach twist, the broken shutters flapping in the wind, the porch light flickering weakly, the air around it heavy like a tomb. And then, as if she knew I had arrived, the front door opened. Naomi stood there, illuminated by the pale light, wearing a white dress that clung to her in the rain, her hair loose around her shoulders. She smiled, slow and chilling, and extended her hand toward me like a lover beckoning me. Inside, my legs felt like lead as I stepped out of The car, my feet splashing in puddles, every nerve in me screamed, but I walked forward anyway, her gaze never leaving mine. "You came," she whispered when I reached the steps, her voice soft, almost tender. "I knew you would. You couldn't resist." I clenched my fist to stop them from shaking. "You've ruined my life, Naomi," I said, my voice trembling with fury. "You stalked me, terrorized me, hurt everyone I care about. Tonight it ends." She tilted her head, her smile widening. "Ruined your life?" "No, Lila, I gave you meaning, I gave you purpose. Before me, you were just ordinary. Now look at you, strong, unbreakable, alive. You're mine because I made you this way." Her words sliced into me, sickly sweet and poisonous, and for a moment doubt flickered inside me. Had I really become stronger because of her? No, I shoved the thought away. I wasn't strong because of her. I was strong in spite of her inside. Her house, the stench of mold and decay hit me like a wave. The walls were covered in photographs, my photographs, me at the grocery store, me walking to work, me asleep in my bed. Some were torn at the edges, others scrawled with phrases like forever and mine. My stomach turned as I realized she had built an entire shrine to me. Naomi walked gracefully through the room, trailing her fingers over the images like a proud artist showing off her masterpiece. "Beautiful, aren't they?" she whispered. "Every moment of you, every breath you've ever taken, I've preserved it all. No one will ever know you the way I do." I felt bile rise in my throat, but I forced myself to keep my voice steady. "You're sick, Naomi. This isn't love, it's possession. I won't let you keep me." Her smile faltered. For the first time, a flash of something darker crossing her eyes. "Don't say that," she hissed softly. "You don't understand how much I've sacrificed for you. How many people I've pushed away just so I could have you all to myself." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" I asked, though part of me already knew. She stepped closer, her voice low, confessional. "Do you think you were the only one? I've had others before, but none of them were perfect like you, none of them understood me. They left or they betrayed me, so I made sure they couldn't hurt me again." The way she said it, calm, casual, final, told me everything she had killed before. My breath caught in my throat, and suddenly the walls felt like they were closing in. I wasn't just dealing with a stalker, I was dealing with a murderer. That realization ignited something fierce in me. I couldn't let her continue. I couldn't let her destroy anyone else the way she had destroyed me, so I made my move. I pulled the recorder from my pocket, letting her see it. "It's over, Naomi. I've got everything. The police will hear your confession. You won't be able to hide anymore." For a split second, her eyes widened, but then she laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that echoed off the walls. "Oh, sweet Lila, do you really think anyone will believe you? You're the unstable one. You're the paranoid one. You've been talking about me for months, and everyone thinks you're crazy. When they find your body here, they'll think you came to me willingly. They'll think you wanted this." She lunged forward faster than I expected, her hand clamping around my wrist like iron. The recorder clattered to the floor. We struggled in the darkness, her nails clawing at my skin, her breath hot against my face as she hissed, "You belong to me." Panic surged through me, but so did fury. I shoved her back, my heart pounding, adrenaline burning through my veins. "No," I screamed. "I belong to no one." I grabbed one of the picture frames from the wall and smashed it against her, the glass shattering in a spray of shards. She staggered, blood trickling down her arm, but her eyes gleamed with something terrifying excitement. "Yes!" she shrieked. "Fight me, show me you're mine." The house became a battlefield, the storm outside roaring in sync with our struggle. She threw me against the table. I slammed her into the wall, our bodies colliding like two forces destined to destroy each other. At one point, she wrapped her hands around my throat, squeezing her face inches from mine, her eyes wild with obsession. Stars burst behind my vision as I clawed at her arms, gasping for air. "You're mine forever," she whispered almost lovingly. And that was the moment I realized what I had to do. If I didn't end her, she would never stop. Not now, not ever, with the last of my strength. I reached for a shard of broken glass, slashing it across her arm. She screamed, the grip on my throat loosening. And I shoved her back with everything I had. She stumbled, hitting her head against the edge of the table, and crumpled to the floor. The room fell silent except for my ragged breathing and the thunder outside. For a long moment, I just stood there, shaking, staring at her motionless body. Part of me wanted to collapse, to cry, to run. But then her chest rose slightly, a low groan escaping her lips. She was still alive, and in that moment, I knew the choice was mine: end it or walk away and risk her finding me again. I stood over her, clutching the shard in my trembling hand, the storm screaming outside, my reflection staring back at me in the broken glass on the floor. I thought of all the nights she had stolen from me, all the fear she had carved into my soul, all the people she had threatened. I thought of Jenna, of the police who hadn't believed me, of the girl I had been before Naomi found me. And I knew I couldn't let her rise again. With a final cry that tore from the deepest part of me, I brought the shard down, silencing Naomi's madness forever. When it was over, I staggered outside into the rain-soaked and trembling, the storm washing the blood from my hands. Jenna ran toward me, her face pale with horror as she saw the state I was in. I collapsed into her arms, sobbing, the weight of everything crashing down at once. "It's over," I whispered. "It's finally over." The police arrived hours later, drawn by Jenna's desperate call, and though they tried to piece together what had happened, the truth was too twisted to fully understand. They found Naomi's shrine, her photos, her notes, her obsession laid bare. For once they believed me, but the victory felt hollow. I had survived, but at what cost? Naomi had wanted to own me, to pull me into her darkness, and in the end I had killed her with my own hands. A part of her would live with me forever, etched into my nightmares, whispered in the shadows of my mind. But another part of me, the part she had tried to destroy, was free, and as I stood in the dawnlight watching the storm fade, I swore to myself that I would never let anyone take my life from me again. Naomi was gone, but I was still here. I had won. Thanks for watching my story. If you stayed with me until the end, I'm truly grateful. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you want to hear more chilling real-life horror stories like this one. Your support means everything. Stay safe, and remember, not all friends online are who they claim to be.